Marley was dead, to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good upon change for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. Mind, I don't mean to say that I know, of my own knowledge, what there is particularly dead about a doornail. I might have been inclined myself to regard a coffin nail as the deadest piece of ironmongery in the trade. But the wisdom of our ancestors is in the simile, and my unhallowed hands shall not disturb it, or the country's done for. You will therefore permit me to repeat, emphatically, that Marley was as dead as a doornail. Welcome back to Archer's World of Literature, guys. Today I'm super excited to be wishing you all a belated Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and if you don't celebrate Christmas, a Happy Holidays for whichever holiday you are celebrating at this time. But today I'm very excited to be going into 1843. This is Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Now, I am aware everyone knows the story, but I try and reread this book every Christmas, so this is probably since I started reading it, so it's probably my third reread or so, but I enjoy it every single time. It's just a short, comforting read that is just a beautiful Christmas story. So, to start off with, we're going to talk about what the book is about. So, A Christmas Carol primarily follows the character of Ebenezer Scrooge. Ebenezer Scrooge is a awful man. He's a horrible person when it's Christmas time and even when it's not. But particularly around Christmas is when he is a real bad guy. We learn that in that opening passage that I read to you guys, his friend... Whoa, hello. Sorry, my cat just jumped on the couch and sent it, off balance, and it sent my lighting into... Sorry, if you own a cat, you know what they can get up to. But yeah, as I was saying, we follow Ebenezer Scrooge, and he's not that great to be around Christmas, because we find out in that reading excerpt at the start that his friend, I guess, he was a colleague, and they were just together, but, the only person that he really spent time with, Marley, was one of his business partners. Actually, we learn later that he died on Christmas Day, and so that's why they're telling us that he's dead, because that really affects Scrooge's behaviour and why he's become the way that he is. So he doesn't like Christmas because it reminds him of, his friends, his colleague has passed, right? And so we kind of assume that maybe that might be some sort of repressed trauma of Ebenezer Scrooge, and he sees everyone else having a jolly and merry, good old time on Christmas, as you should, and he thinks that people shouldn't be merry because, for him it's not a very good time. So yeah, he doesn't like Christmas. He really doesn't. And so it's Christmas Eve, and everyone's asking for the day off for Christmas. And he gives it to them, he's not happy about it, but he doesn't feel like he has a choice because, he's just like, that's how I can get rid of them. They're never going to stop pestering me about Christmas. Have the day off. His nephew comes in, and his nephew actually invites him over for Christmas. So his nephew knows that his uncle is an awful guy and he hates Christmas, but because his nephew is full of the Christmas spirit, his nephew asks him to join them for family lunch on Christmas every year. And every year, Scrooge says no. So he says no, he's not going to come, and he says bah humbug about Christmas, and his nephew goes, "Christmas a humbug? You can't say that. You can't say that, uncle." And then he goes off to tell his family that, he said humbug in regards to Christmas, and he's just this guy who, everyone his family wants to help him, but it's really only his nephew that tries and makes that happen, because everyone else has sort of given up on him because his behaviour has always been like this for the longest time, and people think that he's beyond saving, but his nephew's just trying and trying and trying and trying. And so then we get into the main story of A Christmas Carol. So he gets home after this long day at work, and then he's going up to his door, and as he's looking at the door knocker turns into the face of Marley, like the face of the person that he was friends with that died, and he's like, oh, whoa, must just be cold. I can't believe that. No, that didn't happen, right? He goes inside and he sits down and he's about to have some porridge, like a meal after work, and he hears some chains, right? He hears this clinking, this clanking coming up from downstairs. And then he starts getting really worried because he's like, I saw that face of Marley on the door knocker. And then he goes, all the stories that I've heard about, ghost tales and stuff, they always have chains on them, and you can hear the chains clinking and clanking before you see the ghost. So he starts getting really, really freaked out. And then all of a sudden, Marley in chains appears at the top of his staircase, and he can't believe it at first, and then Marley starts speaking, and he's like, do you believe me now? And he's like, no, I can't believe it. And he asks Marley, how did you become a ghost? Like, you're dead, like, how are you actually still here talking to me? And Marley says, forgotten the quote, but he says something like, I'm bearing the chains that I forged for myself in life, right? And he's saying because they were doing sort of evil deeds, and they used to sort of, because Marley used to be as bad as Scrooge. They were both when it comes to money, they were both very rich men. They didn't care for the poor, for the homeless, and they were greedy with their money. They didn't lend it to anyone. And so he's basically saying that the acts that he did and the selfishness that he showed in life have chained him down. So if you look at the chains, the way Dickens describes it is the chain is forged out of like bills and boxes full of money and receipts and invoices and tax books and lodges and all that stuff. And so it's just showing that the way that he treated his job and treated the people that he had to deal with has forged this chain for him, and that's why he's tied down to earth. And so he says, Scrooge is sort of like, well, why are you coming to me, right? And Marley says, well, I've come to you to help turn around your life, and so you don't get tied down here with your chains like I am. And he says, okay, what's going to happen, right? 3 more ghosts are going to present themselves before Christmas, and they're going to come one at a time, at different hours and stuff, and Scrooge says something like, why can't I have all of them so I can deal with them all at once and just get it over and done with? And Marley just goes, well, that's not the way it works, so you're going to have to deal with it. Marley ends up disappearing. He fades away. He goes out the window, right? And then Scrooge runs off to the window to see where he's going because he's flying away. He's disappearing. And he looks out and he sees a bunch of other ghosts outside. And it's really, really creepy. And so I'm assuming, he says that he knew some of the people that he saw. And so I'm assuming that the people who become ghosts are people that, did bad things in life, right? And so Scrooge is recognizing a couple of people up there and he's terrified. He goes back to sleep and he crashes. So somehow he was terrified by what happened, but I think he'd sort of convinced himself that it wasn't real. And so he goes back to bed, he crashes. Next thing you know, basically, he's woken up by the first ghost. And the first ghost is the ghost of Christmas past. And basically, I'm sort of going to speed run the ghosts because, most people know the general story, and I feel like I've been yabbering on a lot. I just really love this story. So the ghost of Christmas past takes him to his old schoolyard, to his old school, and we can actually see that he, I think it was a boarding school, and so everyone went home for Christmas, and they go into the school, into one of the classrooms, and there is Scrooge as a child, and he's there all alone. So instantly he's got these bad memories of probably being abandoned by family. So he's seeing himself there as a little boy all alone, and he starts going, I wish I could be there to comfort that little boy and, tell him that it would be all right and stuff. And then they end up going back all the way back to Scrooge's house in London. And then, the ghost of Christmas past disappears. He goes back to sleep again, and he's a little bit more prepared for this next ghost. So he's sort of like, he's keeping all his curtains open, he's checking all around him, he's making sure his back's to a wall so he can see everything. And then he hears these noises, and there's a huge giant of a ghost who's set up feasting in his kitchen or one of the rooms over. And it turns out to be the ghost of Christmas present. The Ghost of Christmas Present takes him all the way to a bunch of houses that are showing all the merry time that people are having at the moment and what Scrooge is missing out on. They end up actually going to his nephew's house and they're talking about Scrooge. They're sort of gossiping about his behaviour, and his nephew's telling his family, he said Christmas was a humbug, but, he might come, he might not, but I tried, and they're all laughing about him and stuff. And he starts going, is this really what people are thinking about me, like behind closed doors? Because he's a person that I feel like he's not dumb enough to realise that people don't, think badly of him. But I guess he didn't really realise that people are actually saying bad, mean things about him and sort of behind his back. And so they end up, visiting a couple of other places that are having a merry old time. And then they go back to his place, right? And then all of a sudden, the ghost of Christmas Present disappears, and then a big luminous figure, like a giant, kind of like a Dementor or something, with this huge hooded cloak. He's really, really tall. He's got these large, creepy hands. Appears in front of Scrooge, and basically It's sort of reminiscent of like Death, like the character of Death. Like he looks like it. He looks very grim. So this is the ghost of Christmas yet to come. Now this ghost doesn't speak. He's just very ominous and like, very, very creepy. So the ghost of Christmas yet to come takes him to Bob Cratchit's house, and Bob Cratchit is an underpaid clerk, one of the workers that is treated very badly. What we see ask for a day off at the start of the book. He's the one that's asking for a day off on Christmas. So we go to Bob Cratchit's house, and Bob Cratchit has he's got a couple of kids, but one of his kids is a notably sickly child, and he can't walk, his legs don't work, so he's got crutches, and that's Tiny Tim, right? So Tiny Tim's this cute little character, and he loves the Christmas spirit, but the ghost of Christmas yet to come takes Scrooge to Bob Cratchit's house, and Scrooge finds out that Tiny Tim has passed away in Christmas yet to come. And he goes, oh no, like, how can Tiny Tim have passed away? And I didn't get to spend any time with him, and I could have been there and helped him and, given him money for treatment or better crutches or whatever it was. And then they end up going to a graveyard. So the ghost of Christmas yet to come takes Ebenezer Scrooge to a churchyard, and where there's a large grave. And they go over to a gravestone, right? And Scrooge, being the sort of unaware person that he is, and nothing can happen to me sort of character, he thinks that maybe it's the grave of Tiny Tim. He thinks it might be the grave of his nephew, other people, right? And then he wipes away the snow, and it says Ebenezer Scrooge, like, here lies Ebenezer Scrooge. And he cries and he's weeping, and he's like, oh, please, is there anything I can do? And then the ghost disappears, and he wakes up. He wakes up in bed. And so the end of the story is basically he comes all the way around. He sees, what his Christmases were like. They weren't very good. And then he sees what they are at the moment. They're fun. And then he's convinced at the end that, wow, I could have an impact here, right? And so after he leaves, he finds one of the servants in the house, and he goes, where's that prize turkey? Is that prize turkey still at the butcher's? Go get it, and I'll flip you a shilling, or, I'll give you a couple of coins. And Scrooge has never done that. He's never given money to anyone, family, let alone, someone that works for him, like giving him like a bonus, right? No, he's not that kind of guy. And then he ends up parading through the streets and wishing everyone a Merry Christmas. And it's just amazing because, I don't know, it's just, I love Christmas. I always have loved Christmas. And so to just hear the way Dickens writes about the Christmas spirit is gorgeous. He ends up going to his nephew's place. He visits his nephew, and they're all very, very shocked, very surprised, because they thought that, Uncle Scrooge is going to skip the Christmas party again, but he didn't. He was there, and the novel ends with, just him celebrating a nice Christmas and enjoying the Christmas spirit, being around family, and at the start of the book, he's approached by some people who are trying to raise a fund for the poor people around Christmas time and try and get them some food and some shelter and some clothing and things like that. And he denies them. He goes off and he says, no, I'm not going to support that. Send them to jail or send them to the union office, anything like that. But he finds those people in the street, actually, when he's walking home from Christmas, and he decides to give them a large donation. He whispers something in their ear. We can't hear what the amount is, but, these people, these community organisers for this fund, we see them, they're really shocked. They go, are you sure? Are you the same person that we spoke to this morning? And he goes, yes, come see me later. I'll get it sorted. And so we get this full circle return of, Christmas spirit, and Ebenezer Scrooge accepting that probably for the first time in his life, because we saw if the ghost of Christmas past that he was never a happy person around Christmas because he was always alone, and now he's trying to make use of the family that he has, and make the best Christmas that he can with everything that he's got, and make better use of his money and be more charitable and kind, and it's just really, really beautiful. So that is sort of the synopsis of A Christmas Carol, and all the fun that you can get out of this. This is definitely a book that you probably should read around Christmas. I don't know if you can read this and really grasp the festivities and the atmosphere when you're not reading it around the December period. However, Charles Dickens writing, no matter what time of the year, even though it's about Christmas, you can enjoy this man's prose and this man's stories, and his craft any time of the year. So I think you could pick this up. It's only about 100 pages, 120 pages, 5 staves, and it's just, it's a lot of fun. So that is the brief synopsis. And now I'm going to be talking about the theme. So if anyone who's going to be studying it, or just wants to know before they read it, what to look out for, that's what we're going to go into now. So the first theme is that of the Christmas spirit. Now this one's a pretty self-explanatory one, like you don't really need to go into it in all that much detail, but it gives us a deep dive look into how Christmas was and what the Christmas spirit was for people in Victorian England. Poverty is one of the next themes, but I will mention it here. Yeah, poverty was really, really high in these times, and we had a lot of really, really rich people, and then everyone else, there wasn't really a middle area. Everyone else was struggling. And so the Christmas spirit in A Christmas Carol is kind of shown to be, a glimpse of Victorian England and how Christmas time can be that time where people can kind of just let loose and be appreciative for what they do have, which is family, because you can lose money, you can lose, your house, you can, all these things, but you can't lose family. They'll always be with you. Even if they pass away, they'll always be with you. And so that's kind of the biggest one that's shown with the Christmas spirits. We have, his nephew, right? We got Scrooge's nephew wanting Scrooge to be a part of their Christmas, no matter how his behavior is. So we get to see, sharing food and presents and all these things around Christmas is the Christmas spirit, because a lot of people didn't get to celebrate much good things throughout the year, and so they sort of A Christmas Carol kind of shows the Christmas time as a time when people can reflect on the things that they do have and have a good time, no matter their social status or financial stability. So yeah, that's the Christmas spirit. Now the next one is poverty and social responsibility. I've just got a little bit of a list up here with some of the main themes, as something that I can even reflect on post reading it again. So I did actually hear about, when I was reading Oliver Twist, I did hear, I was watching someone's review about it after I finished it, and someone was actually saying that in Victorian England there were a couple of times where laws were put together that you couldn't beg, like you were not allowed to be a homeless person on the street, begging for money. And so I'm not sure if that was, just in certain areas, or if it was, really that long of a law. But if that was the case in A Christmas Carol, people aren't allowed to, ask other people for money or whatever. So if you're homeless, like you just have to go through bins, and you can't ask people for money. And so that's why we have people like the charity fund people that start trying to get together their own fund, and that's sort of, for the Christmas spirit, right? Social responsibility is because they are going to people that can help out. And most people who can help out are sort of the type of people who, when it comes to Christmas, it's Christmas, right? I'll help them out during this time. That's why they're doing it, because they want to give these people who don't have family and they don't have food and anywhere to go, Christmas parties, a Merry Christmas. And that sort of links directly to the Christmas spirit, the theme of the Christmas spirit. With social responsibility, right? Like as I was saying, they go to Scrooge because they know he has money. They're going to people who have the ability to help, but Scrooge at the start, he doesn't. He's got a social responsibility because he's got a lot of money, but he doesn't make any use of it. And then towards the end, after the redemption, after being visited by the ghosts, he comes around and he fulfills his social responsibility, and he makes that donation, and he views Christmas as a time where he can be charitable. So that is, the themes of poverty and social responsibility, and class, like class status is a really big theme in all of Dickens' work as well. So that was that. The third theme here is redemption, right? And I've said that word a lot during this video. But the big theme in this video is that people can change, right? If it takes a shock, a scare, a bit of convincing, people can change. And we see a character of Ebenezer Scrooge go full circle. So not really that much to say about that. I mean, it goes from stave 1 to stave 5, and by forcing him and showing him reflections on his past, present, and future, sort of makes him reflect. It makes him scared, and it makes him a little bit sad that he's missing out on some things. And so he's able to come around full circle with redemption. So I don't think I need to go into too much detail about that, because it's a little bit more obvious. But some really, really nice themes. You see a lot of these themes in all of Dickens' work, not the Christmas spirit, but poverty, social responsibility, redemption, family, all those things in his books, and that's why he's one of my favorite authors. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Read A Christmas Carol if you haven't. It's a little bit different to the movies, quite different to the movies, and it's read it around Christmas. Next Christmas, I know it's a little bit late now, Actually, by the time I post this video, you've got 3 days. You can smash it out in 1, 2, 3 days. Read it before December ends because it's still a Christmas kind of spirit. It's Christmas month. So thank you so much for watching. If you've noticed, I've got a bit of a better angle going on here. My beautiful girlfriend gave me a tripod for my camera, and so now that's one more thing that I've had to do for the quality of these videos to slowly start getting better and better. So if this helps in any way and you guys like the height that I'm sitting and the shelf views and the stability, then that I owe all of that to my lovely girlfriend. So thank you very much for that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to catch you in the next one. I'm going to be filming a couple of videos today, I think, so I won't see you. It won't be too much longer till I see you. But as I always like to say, keep reading and peace out.